All right, well, I'll tell you the scary story that got me out of guiding, and that definitely got me out of guiding and started to get me out of climbing altogether. My partner and I, guiding for AMS on Denali, lost a client summer of 2004, really nice young guy, dentist. And we were traveling just uphill Windy Pass, notoriously sketchy section. You go up and around this shoulder of the mountain, and as its namesake might imply, it's always blowing real hard there. There's a good fixed line there all the time. I put it in a couple of times. A fixed line is just a rope that pretty much lives there. Oh, it's a raven. That looks like an eagle for a second. So a fixed line, you can clip yourself to the fixed line using a little mechanical device called a Jumar. That when you squeeze a handle, it'll slide up the rope. When you let the handle go, it grabs onto the rope, so you can pull yourself up on it. And it's also tethered to your harness should you fall. So we were running on a fixed line, and we were also all roped together. And then right after Windy Corner, you cross a section that pretty bad exposure. When you're exposed to hazards, that's what they call it, exposure. And this is fatal exposure. Like if you get swiped off this mountain by something, it's a long way down, and that's exactly what happened. We were unroped, traveling about 30 meters apart, just so that if something happens, you don't lose the whole team. And an ice fall came down and just wiped this guy out, knocked him down close to 3,000 feet down to the glacier. So, and my partner was down in camp. I was by myself. We had a woman with early onset pulmonary edema, an altitude sickness, and so I'm arguing with my remaining clients about whether or not we were going to go for the summit, and it just disgusted me with the whole business that those guys, this guy we'd been climbing with for a little over 2 weeks, was obviously dead, and these guys wanted to go for the summit, and I was just over it. And then my first summer up there, I was 20, and some Japanese climbers had a bad accident. The guy came into the high camp, almost 18,500 feet, and they'd fallen. He'd lost his mittens, and his hands were completely frozen. Ended up losing most of his fingers. Wow. And so my very first trip up there, we were on a body recovery. Is this too dark for you guys? Okay. We were on a body recovery because the rangers that they have placed on Denali for this sort of thing were actually over in the Ruth Gorge on another body recovery. And so we had to climb way down and retrieve this guy, and using mechanical advantages and ropes, hoist him back up to the 15,000 foot camp, and then sled him down to the top of the Kahiltna, where he got picked up in a Super Cub, a little two-seater airplane. Well, this guy, the fall had killed him, and then he froze, sort of bent in half, like a V almost. So we couldn't get him in the airplane. We had to tie this poor guy to the landing gear of the airplane, and they flew him out like that.
Any darker guys?
Right.
Top that.
Oh gosh. The question I had is, which way in a V was he?
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask that question.
Rescue story with a happy ending. Well, those rescue stories are usually not that exciting because they have a llama helicopter in Talkeetna that's for high altitude work, and so anywhere, more than 3,000 feet below the summit, they'll bring that helicopter in and scoop people up, which is pretty awesome to watch. And I've trained under it in Talkeetna. We got to take turns putting each other on a sling load, like they would hoist somebody out if they weren't able to land the helicopter. So my buddies and I, took turns hooking each other up to the long line, and then you get slung around Talkeetna under this helicopter and set back down. It was pretty scary, but really fun.
I said, let's do it again.
But we were climbing the Moose's Tooth one time in the Ruth Gorge. Pretty classic route. If you guys have been in Anchorage to the restaurant, Moose's Tooth, little micro brewery, and pizza, great pizza. That's what they're named after. The three guys that started that business are just old dirtbag climbers who are now millionaire dirtbag climbers, which is pretty cool. But we were climbing the Moose's Tooth, and we were climbing the west rib of it, which is mostly alpine ice, but some mixed climbing, which means rock and ice. So you're wearing all your winter gear, your hard plastic boots with crampons on them, and you know, two ice axes, the curved, the handle is curved, and then they have that sharp downward pointing spike, you know, to jam into the ice and hoist yourself up. But when you're mixed climbing, you're using those same tools but on rocks. So the crampons I had at the time, I still have them. I don't think they make this exact model anymore. The Black Diamond Switchblade, you can have double point on the toe of your boot or a single point. So we put the single point on to do all the rock work, and it's really amazing if there's even just a millimeter of a ledge of rock. With those hard plastic boots and those crampons, you can stand on it with the tip of your toe point on it. But anyway, we climbed that route, and it was a particularly bad snow year, so a lot of the ice wasn't there. It was mostly mixed. And then when we start rappelling down the east side, we started encountering a lot of gear that people had left on the mountain, which is usually indicative of people being in trouble and wanting to get out of there real fast. For example, I left about $1,000 worth of gear on Sanford because we were dealing with some frostbite, and I was dealing with just really not wanting to be there anymore. So I left a whole bunch of Black Diamond ice screws that are between $80 and $120 a piece up there. I left a half rope, and I left a low stretch full rope up there. So as we continue descending, you know, we came to a half rope that had been left in place, and then right below that we came to a couple of French guys who were out of gear and still about 1,000 feet from the bottom. And I guess that their plan was to just run out their gear, leaving it on the mountain, and then just sit there and die, because that was their option at that point. So.
What she was talking about with the pipeline before, how it just like sort of.
Oh yeah, here's a spot where the pipeline takes a little bump, and I could not tell you what that is about. Right here on the left. I don't know. So that's really the only rescue story I have where that has a happy ending. Well, we spent, you know, about 4 extra hours helping them down. Because the way you descend when you know, you only have one rope is you descend a section using the full length of your rope, and usually it's doubled up. So, you know, you have a 60-meter rope, you only do 30 meters at a time. From a safe spot to a safe spot. The only reason these spots are safe is because you place gear protection, we call it, in either the ice or in the rock that you can anchor yourself to the face with. And then you know, you have to bring your rope down. So you do always end up leaving a little bit of gear on the mountain, but usually it's just about a 2-foot piece of nylon webbing, like flat nylon. I don't know, it's like rope, but it's flat, 1 inch wide. So you leave that on the mountain, lever cord, people call it. So you have your rope looped through that, and then when you're down at the bottom, you grab one end of your rope and just pull on it with both hands, hand over hand, until you pull it up through your lever webbing and it falls down to you, and then you repeat the process. So with 2 extra guys to bring down who were not in good shape, they were dehydrated and hypothermic, and at the end of the rope, no pun intended.